Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining this session. We are reading from the Seventh Gosvāmī, so a book on the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, written by a devotee named Rupa Vilas Das. So he has made many research, from previous devotees who had written biographies on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as well as Bhaktivinoda Thakur's autobiography as well. So in this way, he has gathered many of the pastimes of the Thakura, and we are very happy to be reading that. So welcome those of you who are watching this live, and welcome those of you who will be watching this later on in a replay. So without further ado, we will start with the Mangala Charana prayer. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjala-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahim Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhischa kripasindhubhyeva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you for joining. This is part 4. Yes, part 4. We started on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and today is Tuesday. So part 4. And I believe maybe today and tomorrow will be the last part. If we read at a relatively fast pace. So yesterday we saw the very amazing pastime of how Bhaktivinoda Thakur chastised Bisaki-san, and that was a very interesting chapter. There were many details that I did not know. I even acted in some dramas of that pastime of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but many things I did not know. We did a pastime in Singapore we did a drama about that pastime in Singapore. Prahlad Bhakta Prabhu from RISKN Puducherry president, he was acting as Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he was putting gray hair, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, old man like that. Actually, he was only 35 years old when that took place. He was young, 35 years old only when he chastised the Bisaki-san, and that yogi really had mystic powers. When he came to arrest him, the yogi became extremely angry, and fire started to emanate from his hair and his eyes, so powerful. And the police constables, they were afraid. They didn't dare to go. And because Bhaktivinoda Thakur stood his ground in front of that, fearful sight, he said, I don't care for all your petty mystic power, you're going down. You have offended the Supreme Lord like that. And they arrested him like that. All the details was much more immersive than than how we used to rehearse the drama because now, I've read so many things. So those of you who were there yesterday, you've heard of it. So today we will start from Kṛṣṇa-saṁhitā and other works. That is the chapter we're starting. This is one of the work of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other works. So now we are 1880, which means now Bhaktivinoda Thakur would be 42 years old. Okay, so I would like to just read the prayer to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Our firm and respectful obeisances unto Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. We begin. In 1880, while residing in Naraila, the Thakura published Kṛṣṇa-saṁhitā. This book received high critical acclaim, even from European scholars like Dr. Reinhold Rost, a great Oriental scholar of the day and a famous linguist. He wrote from London on April 16, 1880, "A long and painful illness has prevented me from thanking you earlier for the kind present of your Sri Kṛṣṇa-saṁhitā. By representing Krishna's character and his worship in a more sublime and transcendent light than has hitherto been the custom to regard him in, you have rendered an essential service to your co-religionists, and no one would have taken more delight in your work than my departed friend Goldstocker, the sincerest and most zealous advocate the Hindus have ever in Europe." So this is the words of that Dr. Reinhold Rost. So very appreciative. He's speaking here of representing Krishna's character, because prior to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Krishna's character was very offended. I mean to say, people were very offensive concerning Krishna. There was this whole trend of blaming the Lord for his intimate pastimes and so on. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur played a huge role in rectifying this. The Thakura also mentions receiving a letter some years later from the famous American transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson, transcendentalist, whose works he had earlier studied. The Thakura had felt inspired to send the famous philosopher a copy of his book and got the following response. 10th of May 1886, Concord, Massachusetts. "Dear Sir, I have received with pleasure the book you so kindly sent me. I am sorry that I do not know the language and cannot read it, and can only send my thanks. R. Waldo Emerson." The Kṛṣṇa-saṁhitā contained an 83-page introduction in Bengali prose in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur discussed the philosophy and development of Indian religion from both the historical and geographical perspectives. The Samhita portion comprised 281 Sanskrit verses divided into 10 chapters, which discuss the spiritual world, the energies of God, Krishna's pastimes, his incarnations, Krishna as the original personality of Godhead, and the confidential associates of the Lord. Accompanying the Sanskrit verses were the Thakura's Bengali prose translations and explanations. Concluding the book was a 43-page resume in which he presented the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in terms of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, just as he had done in his Bhagavat lecture, which exactly followed Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's presentation of Bhagavat philosophy in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Jiva Goswami's presentation in the Sandarbhas. So all these books here, he got his hands on these books only in, 1968, when he was 30 years old. Yeah, turning around 30 years old. He wanted to get this Chaitanya Charitamrita for 8 years and he could not find. The manuscript was hidden only with some devotees who were performing their own bhajan in secluded places, And after reading the CC twice, he was still pondering, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshipping Krishna's intimate pastimes? So he was himself contaminated with this idea that Krishna was immoral. But later, when he read the purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Sridhar Swami, he understood. Okay. In 1880, the Thakura also published a small book of songs called Kalyana Kalpataru, the desired tree of auspiciousness. We have many songs that we sing from this book, which describes spiritual life from the beginning stages up to the highest levels of transcendence. It seems clear from the extremely elevated sentiments expressed by the Thakura therein that his pure devotion had fully manifest at this stage of his life. So 80, we're speaking of 42 years old here. Yeah, that's it, right? I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 42. Yeah. The book is organized into three major branches. Upadesha, advice. In this section, the Thakura describes in 19 songs the various anarthas, unwanted things, that can deviate the practitioner from pure devotional service, beginning with the anartha that brought the soul into this world, lust. Wow. Okay. While I read this, you know what I do? I take notes, because it's a big book. I don't know when I will be able to go through it again or what. So if you would just give me 1 second here, I'd like to save that. I know the book, but I'm afraid to forget the name and this breakdown of what's going to be described here. Okay, so excuse me. All right. So he described all the anatta, unwanted things that can deviate the practitioner from pure devotional service, beginning with the anatta that brought the soul into this world, lust. He exposes all of the impediments in order to prepare the reader for the next stage, upalabdhi, attainment. This section describes how one must attain, assimilate, realize, and apply all of the advice in the first section. And it is further divided into three divisions. Anutapa, repentance due to genuine realization. Nirveda, detachment from material temptations. Sambandha abhidaya prayojana vigyan, realization and knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme, realization of practical action in accordance with that relationship, and realization of the ultimate goal of life. So Sambandha abhidaya prayojana, Prabhupada explains that in his books. Uchvasa, spiritual emotion. This section describes the ecstatic sentiments of a self-realized soul and is divided into 4 sections. Prayers offered by a pure soul in transcendental humility, prayers which express hankering for devotional service, confession of the mind with pleading and petition to the Lord, songs of worship and praise which describe the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, as well as the devotional mellows exchanged with the Lord. At the end of the book, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur falters in his description, feeling apprehensive about describing the intimate exchanges of a pure soul with the Lord. He takes this feeling of hesitancy as an indication from Krishna that such things should not be described to those lacking sufficient advancement to appreciate them. And he ends his songbook there. So we can see from that a pure devotee is guided by Krishna as to what to write and what not. So it seems that he was not capable of finishing the book the way he intended to write it. Therefore, we can understand that actually it's Krishna dictating the pen of a pure devotee. So he did not include, because since this book starts from the very beginning, anarthas and so on, it seems that the Lord did not want the Thakura to include knowledge about his intimate pastimes. This book was very well received and very popular, and one of the Thakura's biographers correctly states, it may be very truly be termed an immortal work and stands on the same level as the divine writings of Narottam Das Thakur. The Thakura reports in his autobiography that the songbook was received with affection. While in Narail, the Thakura also started his great monthly Vaishnava journal, Sajjanatoshani. Oh, so this is where he started. So we're speaking 1880. So he started Sajjanatoshani around the age of 40 plus, in his beginning of his 40s, which was written in Bengali and was meant to educate the learned and influential male of Bengal about the sublime nature of Lord Chaitanya's mission and teachings. 17 volumes were published over the years, which included many articles by the Thakura. And after his departure, his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, took up the work and printed it in several languages, including an English edition called The Harmonist. Okay, so Sajjanatoshani, there was only 17 volumes that were published. So magazine, 17 of them. And then Bhaktisiddhanta took, okay, so Sajjanatoshani is only in Bengali, but it must have been translated by devotees now. We must have it in English, I guess. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati made the English edition, the Harmonist, and this is broad. We see that the Harmonist is, really large collection. That means he printed a lot more. Now we come to his initiation. Okay, so I would like to again welcome our devotee, especially those who have been very constant. So Jani Prabhu, Hare Krishna, one other devotee, Hare Krishna League, and Anandini Mataji, and now as well as the other devotees watching. Thank you for joining. Initiation and Srila Jagannath Das Babaji. The Thakura was feeling an urgent need to take initiation from some suitable guru. He relates, I had been searching for a suitable guru for a long time, but I did not obtain one. I was very unhappy. I was feeling very anxious, and in a dream, Mahaprabhu diminished my unhappiness. In that dream, I received a little hint. That very day, I became happy. 1 or 2 days later, Gurudev wrote a letter to me saying, I will soon come and give you Diksha. Wow. After this, Vipina Vihari Goswami visited the Thakur at Narail and gave him Vaishnava Diksha. Okay, so this is the formal Diksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Vipina Vihari Goswami. Vipina Vihari Goswami was a family descendant of Srila Vamsi Vadanananda Thakur, an associate of Lord Chaitanya, who was given the charge of caring for Lord Chaitanya's mother and wife after the Lord took sannyas. Okay, so the official Diksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur is in the line of the devotee who took care of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother and wife after he took sannyas. He was a disciplic descendant in a line coming from Janavadevi, the wife of Lord Nityananda, and the disciplic from Janavadevi. Okay. The Thakura has written at the end of Shrimad Bhagavatarka Marichimala, Vipina Vihari Prabhu Mama Prabhuvara Shri Vamshi Vadanananda Vamsha Shashadhara. My exalted spiritual master, Vipina Vihari Prabhu, is the brilliant moon in the family of Shri Vamshi Vadanananda. At the end of the Thakura's commentary on Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he has also written, I did not know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a commentary on the CC. Vipina Vihari Hari Tara Shakti Avatari, Vipina Vihari Prabhu Vara, Shri Guru Goswami Rupe, Dekhi More Bhavakupe, Uddhariro Apanna Kinkara. The eminent Vipina Vihari Prabhu, who is the manifestation of the transcendental energy of Lord Hari, who sports in the forests of Raja, has descended in the form of the spiritual preceptor. Seeing me in the dark well of worldly existence, he has delivered this humble servant of his. So I'm really blind because I did not know. What I always heard is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had been initiated by someone who ate some fish. And then when he realized that, he rejected that spiritual master, and then he accepted as his Shiksha Guru, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So, but here we see that he's praising him, he's glorifying him, I mean to say. Anyway, we might learn more later on. In 1881, towards the close of the Thakura's stay in Narail, he felt inspired to go again to Vrindavan, which he had last visited in 1866, so at least 15 years ago. 15 years. He set out on a 3-month pilgrimage along with his wife, Lalita Prasad. Lalita Prasad is his son, and 2 servants. What Lalita Prasad is it Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati? I forgot. No, Bimal Prasad, I think is. Yeah. So his other son. And 2 servants. After arriving, he began to suffer from fever, and so he prayed to the Lord to relieve him for the duration of his stay in the Dham. And afterwards, if he liked, he could again purify him with fever. Just see, purify him with fever. How a pure devotee sees suffering. The fever vanished. While he was in Vrindavan, he associated with different sadhus. He took prasadam at the Kunja, garden of Rupa Das Babaji, and there he heard the Dashashloki of Nimbarkacharya, the great leader of the disciplic succession coming from Lakshmi or Shri. Something notable is that he prayed for his health to get better so that he could benefit more from Vrindavan. So we can understand when we get sick in holy places, we can also pray like that. He also met Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj for the first time. Okay, so he's meeting Jagannath Babaji Maharaj in Vrindavan for the first time in 1881, which means he is 43 years old, more or less. 43 years old. He also met Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj for the first time. The Babaji gave many spiritual instructions to the Thakura, and he later became the instructing guru of the Thakura and an instrumental figure in the discovery of the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagannath Das Babaji divided his time in later years between Sri Vrindavan Dham and Sri Mayapur Dham, 6 months in one and 6 months in the other. He was the spiritual leader of the Gaudiya Vaishnava community of Navadvip and a perfectly realized soul. He became increasingly important to the Thakura as a source of spiritual inspiration and direction. And therefore, in the listing of our line of disciplic succession as given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he reckons the Shiksha link between his father and Srila Jagannath Das Babaji to be of paramount importance. Relegating to relegate something, downgrade, consign or dismiss as an inferior rank of position. Relegate. Relegating his Diksha relationship with Vipina Vihari Goswami to a lesser status by omission. Vipina Vihari Goswami initially enjoyed a very sweet relationship with the Thakura, but later he is said to have been neglected by the Thakura due to a disagreement about the position of Raghunath Das Goswami. Okay, so they had a disagreement about Raghunath Das Goswami. The position, what does that mean exactly? He also assisted the Thakura in his preaching work, but his spiritual advancement was not at the same level as the commander-in-chief of the Vaishnavas, as Srila Jagannath Das Babaji came to be called by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he was not as exalted. So what was the position of Vipina Vihari Goswami? Was he a Mahabhagavatam? It does not appear to be so. Anyway, I will not speculate. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls Srila Jagannath Das Babaji the commander-in-chief of the Vaishnavas. So see Lives of the Vaishnava Acharya, Volume 3, for the biography of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. While traveling in the Dham to places like Radhakund, Govardhan, etc., the Thakura came to know of a band of dacoits, bandits, called the Kanjars. Bandit Satkari Chattopadhyaya Siddhanta Bhushan writes, Pandit, sorry, not bandit, Pandit. I was thinking, why a bandit has got such an exalted, scholarly name? Pandit, okay, so these powerful bandits spread all over the roads surrounding the holy place and used to work havoc on innocent pilgrims for the purpose of extorting the last farthing they possessed. We cannot possibly recount how many murders were committed by these brutes to gain their selfish ends, as these accounts hardly come to light in facts and figures. It was said that these ruffians had at their back some unscrupulous person who had the authority and power over the people. It was through his undaunted will and untiring labor for several months that the whole fact was brought to the notice of government, and a special commissioner appointed to crush the whole machinery set up by these Kanjars against the innocent pilgrims. The result was marvelous, and the name of the Kanjars has forever been extirpated from the earth. In his autobiography, the Thakura humbly gives this event a very brief mention. Going by Palanquin, I took darshan of Radhakunda and Govardhan. There I experienced the spitefulness of the Kanjar, so I made arrangement to put an end to it. In one sentence, he's saying something actually very wonderful. So he got rid of those, low-graded men who tormented the pilgrims in Vrindavan. I did not know that. That is a very nice pastime of his also. He cleared up so many things, When you think about it, philosophically speaking, he defeated so many different sects of Sahajas and so on. Some big demon yogi he put away. Then two of the yogis associate, one who was claiming to be Brahma, one who was claiming to be Balaram. We know Bisaki Sen was claiming to be Mahavishnu, but there was two other rascals also. One who was saying to be Brahma, the other Balaram. He also got them arrested. So many things he did. Bhakti Bhavan. During the time of his Vrindavan pilgrimage, the Thakura also traveled to Lucknow, Ayodhya, and Kashi. He then returned to the house he was renting in Calcutta and found the rest of his family in good health. That is nice to hear, because as if we were not there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by the age of 8 years old, had lost his 4 other brothers. He was the only son remaining. By the age of 11, he lost his father. Later on, he lost his sister. Then he got married with his wife. He has only his wife and his mother. Then his wife lost, I believe, her father, and some other, some people in her family also died. Then after that, she gave birth to a son. She died. So he had only one son and his mother. And he was very young at that time, maybe early 20s. And then he immediately got remarried, very soon got remarried again. His mother could not take good care of the son, and like that. And he got 2 girls with her, and one of them died. So many deaths in his family. He wanted to buy a house in Calcutta, and he found one of his liking, but was transferred to Jessore, where he suffered from fevers and problems with his eyesight. The place was exceedingly abominable. Fever took its residence in Jessore, in accordance with my prayer in Vrindavan. Oh, just see. Yeah, he had said to the Lord, you give me the fever later if you want to purify me. So it came back there. At the same time, I had problems with my eyes. From my childhood, I was short-sighted. I saw well from the left eye, but everything looked blurred from my right eye. At that time, there was a tiny spot in my eyes. My short-sightedness had gone, but my vision was hazy, and I had some sort of ache in my eyes. He requested and received medical leave. His family wanted to go to Ranaghat, but the Thakura was determined to establish a place in Calcutta for his preaching work. Various medical treatments brought him no relief, and he therefore began to treat himself. He found a suitable place for his preaching at 181 Manikatal Street, presently Ramesh Dutt Street, which he would later dub Bhakti Bhavan, the site of many learned discourses, meetings with eminent personalities, and the writing of many articles and books. The worship of Giridhari Shila, which had been given to him by Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, was also to be established. Oh, so a Shila, right? Giridhari Shila. The price of the house was 6,000 rupees. The Thakura had some repairs made and performed Griha Yajna, a ceremony of sanctification, before entering the house. His family, though initially reluctant and dubious about the house, became convinced by seeing it newly renovated, and were at last very happy to move into it. The Thakura got a post in nearby Barasat with the help of Commissioner Peacock, who was very favorably disposed to him. Because of the problem with his eyes, the Thakura received some allopathic treatment and noted a general improvement, but the doctors were insisting that he daily eat fish heads to improve his eyesight. Ugh, fish heads. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur got so many different jobs, occupation. You see how he got a post in Barasat. We always heard that he was the manager. He was a High Court George in Jagannath Puri and so on. That was true for a while, but it was not continuous. And that was the time where he set up the Jagannath Puri offerings. There were so many discrepancies in timings and cleanliness. He set up everything straight. Now, if you go to Puri and you see all those offerings right on time, those 64 offerings, I believe, or 52. Anyway, it's because of him. Even those 52, how it came to so many offerings, it's because of him. He actually chastised the king of Puri at that time, who was very proud. That king came at one point into the garden within the temple with all his constables, his gods and all, and Thakura chastised him and said, "You might be the king of Puri, but this is Jagannath, the king of the universe. When you come here, you better behave." And something else happened, and the king tried to kill him. The king made a yajna of 30 days. He hired so many brahmanas because he knew if he killed him directly, he was too popular, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. People would know, So he made a yajna. He hired those Brahmins to kill Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And what happened, the last day when the Thakura was supposed to die, when the yajna was finished, the king's son died. So you see how it backfired on him. And why he was angry at the Thakura? Because the Thakura, for some reason, had said that now you must arrange for those 52 offering or 64. You can correct me in the comment, for Lord Jagannath. And because of that, the king's treasury slowly vanished, and he became upset with the Thakur because of that. So it's from that time onward that those offerings were, the number was set and the timing and all. Okay, so he got a nearby post in Barasat with the help of Commissioner Peacock. It was okay. So then he did fish head. Yeah, recommend to eat fish head. Finding the idea very painful, he turned to homeopathic treatment and was cured, to avoiding the nasty advice of the allopaths. In 1881, he stayed in Barasat with his sons Radhika and Kamal. He left his wife at home, and she only came when he became ill and needed care. The Thakura was frequently troubled by fevers and various other maladies throughout his life, but his determination to serve Krishna never diminished even slightly. Yeah, so we heard so many times how he felt sick. It's just incredible how much he tolerated suffering. We could have never gone through so. I already mentioned how many of his family members died, right? And constant health issues, and still, he always accomplished the superhuman work of a spiritual genius while performing his material duties to the satisfaction of government officers as well. This must serve as one of the great instructions of his life. Srila Prabhupada once noted the determined activities of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in a lecture. So Prabhupada lecture. Bhaktivinoda wrote about 100 books, almost. Just imagine. He was a very responsible officer, a magistrate, and he was a grihasta. He also had many children. Altogether, he had 10 children, and he had to take care of the children. The office of magistrate, and sometimes he was a very pious and religious man. He was given extra religious work. He was made superintendent of the temple of Jagannath because the government knew that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a very highly advanced religious person. So whenever there was some religious question, he was consulted. So in spite of all his responsibilities as an officer or as a family man with so many children, he executed his family life very nicely, or else he could not have produced a child such as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. At the same time, he served the Supreme Lord in so many ways. That is the beauty. He has written so many books, and in spite of cumbersome duties, that is the beauty of his life. All this became possible because he was a sincere, faithful servant. To write so many books with so many responsibilities for an ordinary magistrate is not possible. But because he was sincere, he got the strength from the Supreme Lord. One does not need to seek strength separately from the Supreme Lord. But if you are sincere, the Supreme will give you sufficient strength. The Thakura had duties in both. Okay, that's the end of Prabhupada's class. The Thakura had duties in both Barasat and nearby Nayahati, and he experienced much trouble for the many ill-natured townsfolk who, in order to draw attention to themselves, tried to create mischief for him in various ways. He stayed there for 2 years, but he always felt eager to leave due to the quarrelsome inhabitants, as well as the constant threat of malaria that was prevalent in the area. So he moved quite a lot in his life. We see, of course, mostly near Bengal, mostly in Bengal or near Bengal, but he shifted quite many times. Sorry. Bankim Chandra who had just completed a book on Krishna called Kṛṣṇa-saṁhitā. The author had been greatly influenced by English and French philosophers, although he had much regard for traditional Vaishnavism. Bankim Chandra heard that the Thakura was an authority on Krishna, as well as an expert writer, so he wanted to take the opportunity to show him the book. Unfortunately, the book was full of all kinds of westernized concepts and various mundane speculations. It presented Krishna as an ordinary person who had many good qualities. For 4 days, taking little food or sleep, the Thakura put forward arguments from the scriptures to prove Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The author, being much swayed by the conviction and authority of the Thakura's presentation, corrected many of the improprieties in his book and brought them more into line with the transcendental teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The author was subsequently criticized by scholars for presenting Puranic histories of Krishna's activities as literal facts rather than pure legends, myths, fables, and traditions. Such criticism may be seen as a kind of certificate of success for the Thakura, whose aim had been to convince Bankim Chandra of just this, that Krishna was the absolute truth and his transcendental pastimes were literal facts. Wow. So to be able to change the mind of someone who's already in a position in the mundane society and so on, and who has written books in a circle of learned Western so-called scholars, you have to be a very powerful preacher, you know. At the end of his stay in Barasat, the Thakur received some important books from an advocate friend, Babu Sarabat Chandra Mitra, who later became a Calcutta High Court Justice, and in 1916 wrote the introduction to a biography of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur called A Glimpse into the Life of Thakura Bhaktivinoda. Among the books sent were the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Okay, sorry, who sent the books to who? At the end of December, the Thakur received some important books from Nadvak. Okay, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur received some books. So Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. At the request of his friend, Thakur Bhaktivinoda took up the task of publishing a good edition of the Bhagavad Gita with the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his own commentary called Rasika Ranjana. This was published in 1886. So the Thakura being about 48 years old. The popular Bankim Chandra wrote the introduction, expressing his indebtedness to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and impressing upon the Bengali public their good fortune in receiving such a great work. All copies of the book were quickly sold out. In 1883, the Thakura came across a Sanskrit manuscript called Nitya Rupa Samsthapanam, establishing God's eternal form, by Pandit Mohan Gosvāmī Nyaya Ratna, a descendant of Lord Nityananda, who had written a very scholarly presentation on the titled subject concerning this essential point of Vaishnava theology. The Thakura wrote a review of the book in English for a European journal, so that Westerners might be attracted to the subject matter. He comments, "The object of the book is to prove the eternal spiritual form of the deity. The subject is certainly not a new one, but in the latter part of the 19th century, when science is so deeply engaged in its warfare with popular belief, it looks like a new subject inviting the attention of the public. Amongst the scientific beliefs that have come to India along with the British rule, the metaphysical inference that the deity has no form has been accepted as one of the most philosophical acquisitions that man has ever obtained. The current of the abstruse idea of a formless Brahma, which has invaded thought and worship in India since the time of Pandit Sankaracharya, has, with the existence of the European idea of a formless God, become so much extended, especially in the minds of the youngsters of this country, that if an attempt is made to establish the fact that God has an external form, it is hooted down as an act of stupidity." So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pointing out that this Mayavad philosophy of Sankaracharya was even more broadly expanded because of the Western contamination, basically. Because Westerners do not accept the deities. If you see any Christians or Muslims, of course Muslims are less Western, but still west of India, Muslims, it doesn't matter. As soon as you speak deity, immediately idol worshippers. You see, they have this atheistic mentality. So definitely with the rule of Britishers in India, it gave this fanning to this fire of Sankaracharya's ideology, philosophy. The Thakura does not use the word external in the above sentence in the sense of material, but in the sense of an eternal spiritual form, which can, under conditions of spiritual purity, be visualized as distinct from his internal essence. Well, external means also that externally we can see with our material senses, Of course, I mean, our eyes. Thakura Bhaktivinoda cites the scholarly sources of the Pandit, the Sandarbhas of Srila Jiva Goswami, the Vedanta Sutra, and the commentaries of the Vaishnava Acharyas, as well as the Shruti and Smriti. He lauds the author not only for his scholarship, but for his devotional sentiment as well. Not only reasoning of a healthy kind, there is enough of that superior sentiment which is called affection. For things, so now this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur praising the author, right, who has written, the descendant of Nityananda, Mohan Goswami Jnana Ratna. Okay, so he's praising his work of establishing the deity as being non-different than Bhagavan. Not only reasoning of a healthy kind, there is enough of that superior sentiment which is called affection, for things beyond the regions of the senses. The shlokas of which the following are translations have created a sort of thrilling sensation in our hearts, which we feel unable to express in writing. Let crowded sins repeat my trial scenes, and lead me on from woe to woe, or woe to woe. Woe or woe means a great catastrophe. Care I for that, if love of God alone would bless my heart where I go. The holy seat of love is Vrindavan, where matter's laws have no domain. Ah, when my panting soul shall find its rest in that eternal realm again. Very beautiful. Thakura, following a translation, have created of which the following are so he translated in English some of the shlokas that were written, it appears, by that Pandit who wrote that book. There are several of such spiritual effusions which the materialists and the so-called positivists will scarcely understand. The book under review is replete with unprejudiced discussions about the Shastra and considerations of points of pure bhakti or the spiritual sentiment to God. We fear, however, distant corner of the Almirah for happy enjoyment of white ants and other insects, with the expression that the book is nothing but a repetition of some old rejected arguments of idolatrous nature. The reason why even thoughtful men might be induced to believe this is that with the change of time, phraseology, the process of reasoning, and the manner of using evidence also change. So phraseology, right? The manner of putting phrases, constructing phrases. And the work before us now has not been composed in accordance with the manner of writing which is now in vogue. The old Sanskrit style has been adopted. We, for ourselves, do not attribute this to want of ability in the author, but to his dislike of the modern form of writing. Be that as it may, we shall review the book arranging the arguments in a purely modern style. Let our readers know it for certain that we shall simply reproduce in the modern style the argument of Prabhu Upendra Mohan Goswami. Okay, so he rewrote the book with modern language. The Thakura then proceeds to give a highly logical and brilliant explanation of spiritual form, addressing the various arguments which might be raised by the rational thinker and answering them strongly. So this is a way of Vedic debate, that you put forward. This is called, there's 5 stages to argument, okay? So first you present your standpoint, so the thesis. What is your thesis, okay? Then you bring in a doubt relating to your thesis, so an antithesis. Then you bring in a proper argument against your own thesis. So you present already the best opposing argument the opponent can have. Okay, so that's the third step. Then you defeat that with the synthesis. You quote again from Shastra to defeat that argument presented against the opponent, and then you support again you're defeating that argument with some further evidences. So there's 5 stages. Your thesis, the doubt, and the counter argument, which is the antithesis. Then your synthesis is composed of defeating that and reinforcing your final point in this way. This is the way that Srila Jiva Goswami wrote some of his Sandarbha. This is the way that Baladev Vidyabhushana wrote his commentary on Vedanta Sutra. This is called Adhikaranya. So, okay. Here, some excerpts. Okay, addressing the various arguments which might be raised by the rational thinker. So now he's gonna... There is one more argument of the rationalists which we shall take time to consider. He naturally questions the possibility of the manifestation in nature of that supernatural form. We have read in the Hindu scriptures and in the lives of holy men such as Prahlad and Dhruva that God made his appearance in nature in his form of spirit and acted with men as one of their friends. We are not prepared, in consideration of our short time and space, to prove that the statements made in the Shastras were all historically true. But we must show that the principle taught in these statements is philosophically safe. God is spiritually almighty and has the power to overcome all conditions of matter, space, and time. It is certainly his power and privilege to be aloof from matter in the position of his Shri Vigraha, and at the same time to exist in the universe as its soul. In the exercise of his liberty and sovereignty over matter and space, it is not hard to believe that he may now and then, or at all times, be pleased to make a manifestation in nature, sometimes accepting her rules and sometimes rejecting them at his pleasure. Yes, so Krishna sometimes acting as if being just a normal child under the rules of nature, and then lifting a mountain with a finger for 7 days, you see, at his own pleasure, right? The conclusion is that the universe in general and men in particular can never be a rule and joy, a sight of the all-beautiful in the scene of matter. But God, of his own freedom, can exhibit himself in supersession of all rules and prove his dominion over all he created. Man sees him when he regains his pure spiritual nature, but God shows himself out of kindness to man wherever he is pleased to do so. That's it. So yes, it's a fact that God is not matter. It's a fact that we have to be pure to see him, but these are the rules established by the Lord. Naham prakashaha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. He covers himself, but if he wants, he can remove that. And here I am in the Acha Vigraha form. I'm there. You can see me with your eyes. Still, there has to be purification of the observer, but it doesn't mean that because I don't see Krishna there, the deity is not Krishna. No, that is Krishna. Holy men to whom God has been pleased to show his spiritual form have often attempted to picture it to their fellow brethren. Brother of the time being, I believe. The picture, whether it be by pencil, chisel, or pen, is always made through the medium of matter, and hence a degree of grossness has all along attended the presentations. This emblematic exhibition of spiritual impressions is far from being open to the charge of idolatry. Those who rationally conceive the idea of God and by the assistance of the imagination create an image are certainly open to the charge. There's a very famous story, the story of Moses when he went to take the 10 commandments and then came down. His followers were worshipping the golden calf, which, by the way, the Olympics opening, I don't know if you've seen this nonsense, lusty people who imitated the Last Supper of Lord Jesus Christ. They had a golden calf also in the Olympic opening. It's all some satanic demon worship going on. There is one absolute truth at the bottom of this important question. Is it this? Nature has indeed a relation to the spirit. What is that relation? As far as we have been instructed by the inner tutor, we may safely say that spirit is the perfect model and nature is the copy which is full of imperfections. Draw inferences from the side of nature and press them upon the deity. they will ever remain gross and imperfect. Draw from the spirit inside and push your impressions at first to the mind and then to the body. You simply spiritualize them both. Wow. Okay, so if you take matter and you try to make it spirit, it will always fail. Like, I want to make a golden calf. I want to make a god out of this man. It won't work. It won't materialize the spirit or whatever. It won't become spiritualized if you try to push it into spirit. But if you bring spirit within matter, just like Krishna within the mind, you think of him, the mind becomes spiritualized. Krishna within the stone, the Archa Vigraha becomes spiritualized. The stone becomes spiritualized. Here is the advent of God on the scene of nature. It is then that the model is to be found represented by the corresponding copy in nature. Corresponding copy. God's transcendental form also finds its corresponding reflection in nature. And when we worship the deity in pure love in the reflected scenes of Vrindavan, here the imagination has no play. It is the soul which sees and makes a description in the corresponding phenomena in nature. So he's trying to explain how the deity is not material. The spiritual form thus conveyed to us is none but the eternal form of God. The grossness is simply apparent, but all the actions and consequences are fully spiritual. The man who weeps and dances in felicity when he spiritually sees the beauty of God is certainly translated to the region of spirits for the time, and the gross action of his body is but a concomitant manifestation caused by a current of spiritual electricity. Wow. Yeah, so he's explaining how the functions of the body who's feeling ecstasy while dancing in front of the deity is no longer a material mechanism. It is jolted by spiritual energy, and therefore it has nothing material. Here we find the absolute in the relative, the positive in the negative, and spirit and matter. The spiritual form of God is therefore an eternal truth, and with all its inward variety, it is one undivided unity. So all the forms of God are still but only one. What appears to be a contradiction to reason is nothing but the rule of spirit, and the greatest surprise arises when we see full harmony in all these contradictions. And that is that vision of understanding all of it actually is only there on the highest stage of spiritual advancement, when there's no more conception of matter. That's the highest. A pure devotee doesn't see matter anymore. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. He sees Krishna only. The above is only one among the many arguments advanced by the Thakura in one of the most brilliant of his essays. He proves by logical argument that the eternal form of God is a necessity if the world, theism, is to have any meaning. In 1884, 46 years old, more or less, the Thakura received a transfer to Shirampur, where he lived in a residence beside the court. His sons, Radhika, Kamal, and Bimal Prasad, stayed with him. In October, his mother died, and the Thakura, taking a leave of absence, went to Gaya for the performance of the Shraddha ceremony. During his stay in Shirampur, he got the opportunity to visit the former residence of Lord Nityananda's great associate, Shri Udharana Datta Thakura, at nearby Saptagram, as well as Abhiram Thakura's place at Khanakul, and the place of Lord Chaitanya's great devotee, Vasuramanand, and Kulinagram. So his mother left when he was around 46 years old. In 1885, the Thakura organized a press in Calcutta at Bhakti Bhavan called the Chaitanya Yantra or Chaitanya Press. The Sajjana Toshani was published only occasionally during this period up to 1892. Now we're coming near Srila Prabhupada's birth. Of course, now it jumps to 1892. It says that it was printed, the Sajjana Toshani was printed until 1892, at which time it began to be published regularly. Occasionally in 1892, and then regularly after that. In 1886, a literary exposition occurred. The Thakura published his Gita with commentaries previously described, and Shri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, a philosophical work in Bengali prose based on Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis as found in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is the Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa and Sanatana Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Is it the work that the first book that was sent to the West about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He sent to Montreal City, McGill University. I think that's the book. The teachings are compared to a flood of nectar and are divided into 8 rainfalls, each rainfall being further divided into downpours. In this work, the Thakura fully describes the different kinds of impediments to devotional service, the usefulness of Varnashram Dharma in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, the specific deviations of many of the so-called Vaishnava sects of the day, etc., etc. This book was very well received. The Thakura also published Sanmodana Bhashyam, a Sanskrit commentary on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtakam, the Bhajana Darpana Bhashya, a Bengali commentary on Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Manaha Shiksha, together with a Bengali verse translation of Das Goswami's Sanskrit poem. Manaha Shiksha, that's the name of Das Goswami. He also wrote Dashopanishad Churnika, a book of Bengali prose on the 10 principal Upanishads. Wow. The Bhavalavi, a compilation of Sanskrit verses on the subject of rasa written by different Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas, edited by the Thakura with Bengali translation of the verses. He also managed to write a philosophical novel called Prema Pradipa in Bengali prose, and to publish the Sri Vishnu Sahasranama from the Mahabharata with the Sanskrit commentary of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana called Namartha Sudha. Wow. So there is the Vishnu Sahasranama that we can study with the commentary of Baladev Vidyabhushana. Well, this chapter has so many of the books. Also in 1886, the Thakura established the Sri Vishva Vaishnava Sabha, a spiritual society in Calcutta, and many educated men became his followers. Some of the meetings were held in Sarkaz Lane, and several committees were formed with assigned duties in the propagation of Krishna consciousness. So he formed a society, that was his society. What was it again? Chaitanya something? Anyway, Sri Vishva Vaishnava Sabha, a spiritual society in Calcutta. So I thought he had already established one with another name. Anyway, so preaching, was very serious at that time. To acquaint the public with the functions and aims of the society, the Thakura published a small booklet called the Vishva Vaishnava Kalpatavi. The Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha was started by the Goswami followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was described at some length in the previous volume of this series. The Thakura regularly lectured and read from the literature of the Goswamis at the Bhakti Bhavan. Bhakti Bhavan also he started. And his son, Bimal Prasad, often attended during these years, imbibing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness from his father and simultaneously learning about the printing that was going on there. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was listening to his father's classes. There's a loud frog right outside the window, so I'll go close the window one moment. Actually, not just one loud frog, there's hundreds of them. It's the rice fields right there, but there was one that was really near the window. Okay, so from his father and simultaneously learning about the printing that was going on there. The Thakura began work on an edition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita with his own commentary called Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. Describing this period in his autobiography, the Thakura notes, "It was a highly intellectual task for me to publish all these books. Haradhan Datta of Badan Ganga in Kayapat came to Shirampur and offered a very old manuscript of Shri Krishna Vijaya. I published that. At that time, I established the Chaitanya Press, which was operated by Shri Yukta Prabhu. Okay, Chaitanya Press, he called it. When I had printed 2 khandas of the book Chaitanya Charitamrita, I got a very intense head ailment from all this intellectual work. Yeah, no doubt. And he used to, and on top of that, so many children, as Srila Prabhupada described right earlier, and his court duties and all. And he was hardly sleeping, hardly eating. For some time, the Thakura could not work due to dizziness. At the suggestion of some Vaishnavas, he smeared ghee on his head, taking the instructions to be the suggestion of Srila Jiva Gosvāmī, as he had, simultaneous to their urging, received some of Jiva Goswami's books. I prayed to Sri Jiva Goswami that the affliction would not continue. Praying in this vein and applying ghee, my ailment vanished. Again, I began to work and read the books of the Goswamis. So he had ailments because of all of that, and ghee was applied. That's, I know one devotee who's got a lot of dizziness issues, I think I'll quote that to him. So it vanished. Again, I began to work and read the books of the Goswamis. In 1887, the Thakura is now about 49. The Thakura traveled to many places in Bengal in search of the Chaitanyopanishad, which is part of the Atharva Veda, but found only in the very old manuscripts. Yeah, this is the thing, Sometimes only very old manuscripts contain some scriptures or verses. We are being criticized that ISKCON is quoting this Sampradaya Vinihanye Mantrashta Nishpalamataha. You must receive a mantra coming from Sampradaya. And then there's 4 Sampradayas, right? Vishnu Sampradaya. This is supposed to be from I think, Padma Purana. Yeah. But you cannot find it. There's no version that has this verse. But it was quoted by the Acharyas, Jiva Goswami, I believe, and so on. Many of the Acharyas have quoted that. Baladev Vidyabhushana in his Govinda Bhashya and Vedanta Sutra, he quoted that verse. But it's nowhere to be found. So we're criticized that but the Acharyas that means the Acharyas have seen that verse in some of the old manuscript, probably, but now it's nowhere to be found. Few people had even heard of this work, which offered overwhelming evidence of Lord Chaitanya's identity as the Supreme Lord and Yuga Avatar. Oh, okay. So Chaitanya Upanishad. Wow, I wonder if we have a soft copy now of that. Chaitanya Upanishad, that is the evidence. I think we have many verses from that. So, the avatar of the present age, Kali. His endeavor was finally brought to the attention of Madhusudan Das, a Vaishnava Pandit, who possessed an ancient manuscript of the Atharva Veda. The Pandit at once dispatched it to the Thakura from his place in Sambalapur. When the Vaishnava community learned of the Thakura's discovery, they immediately requested him to prepare a Sanskrit commentary. Oh, so I guess we must have it. The Thakura agreed and produced Shri Chaitanya Charanamrita. Madhusudan Das assisted by writing a Bengali translation of the verses called Amrita Bindu. Oh, so we got it then. That's when people, Hindus, how come Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is da. Then we can study this Shri Chaitanya Charanamrita, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is actually the Chaitanya Upanishad from the Atharva Veda, very authoritative. And Madhusudan Das assisted by writing a Bengali translation of the verses called Amrita Bindu. Okay. The Thakura was awarded the title Bhaktivinod during this period of his colossal efforts in preaching and book publication. So the Bhaktivinod title came when he was almost 50 years old. I think you can hear my daughter. They just came back from outside, and my daughter is a big drama girl. She had a lot of drama, and when she does drama, she comes to find me in the office. So I'll have to speak louder, I guess. Shripad Acharya Kul wrote a letter to the Thakura in Sanskrit awarding him the title, and the Thakura gratefully answered in the same. He comments, the masters had given the title Bhakti-Vinod to me, and this was also the desire of Mahaprabhu. The title Bhakti-Vinod means the pastime or pleasure of devotional service. And taking either of both of these meanings as appropriate, it must be said that the Thakura was the embodiment of one who performs and takes pleasure in the pastimes of devotional service. The Thakura's statement that his being awarded such a title was the desire of Mahaprabhu should not be misunderstood. First of all, it clearly was Mahaprabhu's arrangement, as the scholars had not been requested by the Thakura that he be given any title. They were inspired to do it from within. What is more, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was pure and able to understand Lord Chaitanya's desire, and thus there is no element of speculation or pride in his declaration. I think I'll have to read a bit with my daughter on my laps. Shh, quiet. Okay. Papa's reading. Okay. Shh. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Distributing the Bhakti, publish a detail. Okay, here. Okay, listen to Baba read. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also began to propagate the Chaitanya Panjika, a Vaishnava almanac. And it was by his effort that the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was made a respectfully observed and important fast day in the Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar. Oh, I did not know that. So prior to Bhaktivinoda, it seems that it was not very standard for Vaishnavas to observe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as appearance day. By lecturing to various societies in Calcutta and elsewhere, the Thakura was profusely distributing the seeds of bhakti. He published a detailed account of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life in the Hindu Herald, an English periodical, which was widely read, and the article drew much favorable attention. Thus, along with his earlier title, Satchidananda, which was awarded after the publication of Satchidananda Premalankara, and together with his new title, Bhakti-Vinod, he was thenceforward known as that all was because of his, ardent publishing one after another. So he became Satchidananda Bhakti-Vinod Thakur in 1887, around the age of 50 years old, 49, like that. Discovery of Lord Sri Chaitanya's birth site. Okay, so this is very famous. In 1887, when the Thakura was 49 years old, 49, he began to reflect on his retirement. He revealed his mind in his autobiography. I recovered fully from my head ailments, and I constantly studied the devotional literatures. Because of associating with devotees, I became more renounced. I thought, I have spent my days in a futile way. I have not accomplished much. Just see his humility. I have not been able to obtain even a little taste of service to Sri Satchidananda Swarupa Radha Krishna. Therefore, I will retire, and taking my pension, I will find some little place in the groves of Vraja near the bank of the Yamuna and perform bhajan with my friend, Bhakti Bringa, until the end of my life. So you see, 49-year-old, he's thinking of retiring. You gotta go take shower now? No. Yes, you must take shower with Mama, okay? Be a good girl, okay? Yes, play with the good. Play with the good. Okay, we got the troublemaker out. So now the Thakura wants to renounce. The Thakura approached his intimate friend, Shri Ram Sevak, Bhakti Bringa, for consultation, and they had some heartfelt discussions. At this time, the Thakura was composing the Amnaya Sutram, 130 Sanskrit sutras describing the absolute truth, with a Bengali commentary called Laghu Bhashya and a Bengali translation of the sutras. So now he's in the mood of renouncement, and he went to speak about this idea to his friend. But this is the first time that we hear Bhakti Bringa, Shri Ram Sevak Bhakti Bringa. So he seemed to have been a very close friend of the Thakura because he wants to renounce and just perform bhajan with him. Following the consultation with Bhakti Bringa, the Thakura went to perform some governmental work in Tarakeswar, and Bhakti Bringa Prabhu went to Calcutta. The Thakura spent the night in Tarakeswar, and while he slept, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in his dreams and told him, "You will certainly go to Vrindavan, but first there is some service you must perform in Navadvip. What will you do about that?" So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord, appeared. Returning from Taraskewar, he again consulted his friend, who advised him to transfer to Navadvipa Dham. The Thakura requested Mr. Peacock for this transfer, but Mr. Peacock felt that a transfer so soon after coming to Shirampur would be improper. The Thakura was filled with transcendental anxiety. He declined offers thereafter of personal assistantship to the Chief Commissioner of Assam and the office of the Minister of Tipera State, both offices carrying tremendous prestige and generous salary. The Thakura then submitted his application for retirement, but the application was not accepted. We can see similar situation to Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, who tried to retire from government service. Finally, he approached Babu Radha Madhava Vasu, who was the deputy magistrate of Kṛṣṇa-nagar, and worked out a mutual transfer with him, the Kṛṣṇa-nagar post for the Shirampur post. This proposal was submitted to the government, but Mr. Peacock was absent and Mr. Edgar was on duty. The transfer, however, was approved, and notification to that effect came on November 15, 1887. The Thakura was jubilant, but he was then overwhelmed by high fevers. He writes, "How shall I speak of my misfortune? Returning home in joy, I became anxious because of a terrible fever came on. It did not subside. Collector Toynbee arrived and expressed a desire to postpone my substitution. But then I thought, I'll live or I'll die. But I will go to Kṛṣṇa-nagar. The Thakura received sick leave and proceeded to Navadvip. Thus, in my bed-ridden condition, I chose to go. My wife and Mahendra Mama went with me. There was a little difficulty on the way, but in the ecstasy of going to Navadvip, I felt untroubled." Wow. Just see how absorbed is a pure devotee. He was 50 years old at that time, but still, because of all the trouble he had with health issues throughout his whole life, definitely he felt more trouble than a normal 50-year-old man. And now he's attacked by a huge headache, fever, and he's traveling. And mind you, already traveling in India nowadays can be uncomfortable, what to speak of back then. But he felt untroubled. The Thakura began to perform a few minor duties in Kṛṣṇa-nagar, but soon collapsed. A Dr. Russell informed him that if he did not take medicine and a proper convalescence diet, he would die. The Thakura had taken only milk for 45 days. Only milk. From time to time, I thought, my many obstacles are a good sign. Dr. Russell prescribed quinine. Quinine, what is that? A bitter crystalline compound present in cinchona bark, used as a tonic and formerly as an anti-malarial drug against malaria and used as a tonic. And that chapatis be eaten every day and other medicines. During the Christmas break, the Thakura took a train to Navadvip with his wife. He writes, "Upon arriving there and surveying the land in all four directions, the hairs on my body stood on end. Proceeding to the Rani Dharmasala, the Thakura arranged for an offering to be cooked for Lord Chaitanya. He then took grains for the first time in many days and commented, "Since my birth, I had not eaten such nectarian food." After this, the Thakura gradually regained his strength and began to come to Navadvip every Saturday to search out the site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. So how is it that he understood? Because, okay, he got the dream from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, says you've got something to do in Mayapur. So I guess he understood from that hint of the Lord, right? So he's searching for Mahaprabhu's birth sign. However, most of the local people had little interest in or actual knowledge of the holy sites of Navadvip, and the Thakura became a little discouraged. Most of the local inhabitants expressed the opinion that the site of Lord Chaitanya's birth was in Navadvip, but the Thakura was not convinced. Another theory was that the actual site had been lost under the shifting path of the Ganges. Still not satisfied, he continued to try to establish where the authentic birthplace was located. One Saturday evening, the Thakura was sitting on the roof of the Rani Dharmasala in Navadvip with his third son, Kamal Prasad, and a friend who was a clerk. It was 10 o'clock and very dark, as the sky was covered with clouds. The Thakura gives his account. Across the Ganga, in the northern direction, I saw a large mansion flooded with light. When I asked Kamal about this, he confirmed that he had seen it also. When I asked the clerk, he said, "I didn't see anything." I was utterly amazed by that. When I looked carefully at that area in the morning from the roof of Rani's house, I saw a palm tree located there. Inquiring from others about the place, they said it was known as Balaldighi, which was near the ruins of the old fort and kingdom of Laxman Sen. Upon inquiring of various persons, the Thakura learned that adjacent to that place was the large pond of King Balal Sen, from which the town got its name, and aside from that, there was nothing of importance. The following Saturday, he went to Balaldighi, where at night he again had a wonderful vision. He spent the next day wandering all over the site. The elderly locals told him that this was indeed the location of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. So the elderly people told him. They pointed out an extensive mound covered with tulsi plants as the actual site of his appearance. It was covered with tulsi. In order to substantiate his growing conviction, the Thakura began to conduct an investigation utilizing old manuscripts of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Bhakti Ratnakara, and Narahari Sarakar Thakur's Navadvip Parikrama Paddhati, as well as antique maps of the district. In particular, he found an old map from the time of Ganga Govinda Singh, who was the Naib Diwan of the Khalsa and founder of the Paik Pararaj family, which flourished in the later part of the 18th century. The name Sri Mayapura was found on the map to indicate the site of what became known as Balaldighi. He ascertained a good deal about the different villages of the area from his research with the manuscripts and maps and from the local villages as well. He found to his great astonishment that the town on the western banks of the Ganges, now called Navadvip, was actually a place of less than 100 years standing, and that there were still people living there who declared that in their youth they had moved to the new town from the old site at Balaldighi. Okay, so basically Balaldighi is Navadvip. He also found that this town of Navadvip could not possibly be the site of Lord Chaitanya's appearance because Lord Chaitanya had appeared on the eastern bank of the Ganges. Furthermore, the elderly villagers of Balaldighi even called the area Mayapur. Then, while reading the Bhakti Ratnakara, the Thakura found the following verse which confirmed his discovery beyond a doubt. Navadvipa Madhye Mayapura Namasthan Yathaya Janmilan Gaurachandra Bhagavan. In the center of Navadvip, there's a place called Mayapur. At this place, the Supreme Lord Gaurachandra took his birth. So basically, Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovered Mayapur and alongside the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This monumental discovery took place toward the beginning of 1888. In China, 8 is a very auspicious number. So 1888 is a very auspicious year for Chinese. And for the whole world, it seems. The birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovery. And it was a landmark event in the history of Vaishnavism. The site of the divine appearance of Lord Chaitanya, after being lost for several generations, was again revealed to the world by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Wishing to confirm it even more resoundingly, the Thakura later requested Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnava community, to come to the site. The aged Babaji, who was more than 120 years old at that time, was so weak that he was carried everywhere in a basket by his disciple Bihari. So a strong disciple was carrying him in a basket, Many curious persons accompanied him. He was so old that his eyelids completely covered his eyes, and they had to be propped open with his hand if he wanted to see someone. Wow. When he was brought to the spot discovered by the Thakura, he became overwhelmed with ecstasy and jumped into the air, crying, Eto Nimai Janmabhumi. This is indeed the birthplace of Lord Nimai. Thus, by the additional and absolute confirmation of the Paramahamsa Babaji, the site was forever certified beyond doubt. Thus, from both an empirical and spiritual point of view, the place of Lord Chaitanya's birth was ascertained. Just as Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami excavated the lost sites of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavana, the Thakur discovered this lost site of Gauranga's advent and other pastimes in Navadvip. This discovery led to his undertaking further research, and he eventually discovered many of the sites of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and described them in his book Shri Navadvip Dham Mahatmyam, which he wrote in Kṛṣṇa-nagar and published in 1890. And many devotees now, they use this book as a guide for the parikrama of Navadvip Dham. Wow, wonderful, huh? Finding the birth site. Just see how he has Krishna has empowered him to do so. After the discovery of the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur spent some time worshipping the Lord there. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, Lalita Prasad, relates that one of the Thakura's sons was suffering from a skin disease, and that Srila Babaji Maharaj told him to lie down at the site of the Lord's birth. The boy did so and was cured by the next day. Later, when Jagannath Das Babaji returned to his place of bhajan at Kulia, he requested Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was eager to render some service to him, to build a solid covered veranda so that the Vaishnavas who came to see him would have a pleasant place to sit and chant. The Thakur immediately complied with that order, to his guru's full satisfaction. In Kṛṣṇa-nagar, the Thakur's health deteriorated. He was afflicted with severe tonsillitis. Tonsillitis, I've heard of tonsillitis, I guess. Inflammation of the tonsils. Inflammation of the tonsils. Tonsils, either of two small masses of lymphoid tissue in the throat, one on each side of the root of the tongue. Okay, so I think it's those two things here that float. We have two glands here, I guess. So afflicted with severe tonsillitis, it became inflamed. He received 2 months' leave, and during that time he purchased a place where he would write many books and perform hours of bhajan, Sri Surabhi Kunj. He then traveled with his family by horse and carriage and visited Ula Gram, the place of his birth and childhood. Ula village, that's where he's born. After visiting his boyhood home, he spoke to the government officer, Mr. Edgar, who had helped him get the post in Kṛṣṇa-nagar, about transferring to a place where he could regain his health. In 1889, he moved to Netrakona, from there to Tangal, and from Tangal to Burdwan. So 1889 is about 90, so now he's about 51-year-old, right? 60 or 22 plus 30, about 51. During his stay in Burdwan, the Thakura sometimes suffered from fevers and had difficulty breathing. When he recovered, he resumed his duties. While in Burdwan, he performed kirtan with the Vaishnavas of Amalajora, headed by Kshetra and Vipina Babus, and noted their strong devotion to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Thakura composed poems like Shoka Shatana, which described in 13 songs the disappearance of Sri Srivasa's son during Lord Chaitanya's kirtan. Oh, yes. And his friend would sing them. This is a very very stunning pastime. At one point, the associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were having a kirtan in Sri Srivasa's house. And while having kirtan, the son died. And Sri Srivas did not want to disturb the kirtan of the Lord. So the kirtan continued like that for some time, while his wife and all that were complete, devastated by the. So he did not want to disturb. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noted after some time, some great calamity must have appeared here. And like that. And then, oh yes, my son has left. So, very poignant pastime. So all the while he was working on his books despite all difficulties. 1890 saw the publication of Amnaya Sutram, a work comprised of 130 Sanskrit sutras describing the absolute truth, with his commentary Laghu Bhashya, together with Bengali translation of the codes. He also published the Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmyam, which comprised 18 chapters written in Bengali verse describing Jiva Goswami's tour of the land of Navadvip in the company of Lord Nityananda. This was called the Parikrama Khanda. A second volume of this work called Pramana Khanda was also published, and it was a collection of Sanskrit verses glorifying the holy land of Navadvip, gathered by him from the Vedic literature and arranged in 5 chapters. Okay, I think this is where the devotee get their verses to confirm Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as being incarnation. From this Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmyam. Basically, he's put those verses from the Chaitanya Upanishad that was part of the Atharva Veda. Was it Atharva Veda? Anyway. In March and April of that year, he got the chance to tour various holy places, including the birthplace of Vrindavan Das Thakur, and visiting Godruma Dvipa. He had a picnic with his sons. On May 19, he took darshan of Shri Jagannath Das Babaji in Kulia with great delight. From Burdwan, he was transferred briefly to Raniganj and then back again to Dinajpur in 1891. In 1891, he published the Bhagavad Gita with a Sanskrit commentary of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana called Gita Bhushan, as well as his own Bengali commentary, Vidvad Ranjana. So many works, so many names. Who has the time in his life to study all these works, We have got so much from the Acharyas. Even our own Srila Prabhupada's books are so voluminous that most devotees are not even serious enough to read all. What to speak of studying all the Acharyas' books. So preaching the holy name. Okay, that might be the last chapter we'll go through. We'll see. We are 1 hour and a half in. Preaching the holy name. Well, he was speaking of retiring, but still now he's with his wife because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to do some work in Navadvip, right? He's still with his family. In August of 1891, the Thakura received approval for a 2-year furlough. Furlough, that means what? Suspension or discharge of a worker or workers on account of economic conditions or shortage of work, especially when temporary. Yeah. 2 years. So 2 years of work. His base for this preaching effort was Godruma Dvipa, which the Thakura dubbed the Namahat, the marketplace of the holy name. He traveled with Shri Ram Sevak Chattopadhyaya Bhakti Bringa, his old friend, as well as Shri Sitanatha Dasa Mahapatra and Shri Sital Bhritya. They chanted in many places, gave lectures, and made devotees. The Thakura describes the spirit with happiness. At this time in the month of Avin, Ramsevak Babu, Sitanath, and Sital Britya all took a ship to Ramjivanpur for chanting and lectures. In many places in Ramjivanpur, we chanted and spoke, and we were very happy. From there, we went to Kayapat, Badanganja, where we lectured. In that place, all of the devotees, brahmanas, and panditas were pleased. Having stayed 13 days in that area and concluding with a lecture program in Ghatal, we returned. We performed Nama Sankirtana everywhere. After coming to my house in Calcutta, I proceeded to Surabhigunja, and we performed a great deal of Sankirtana there too. In his lifetime, the Thakura established over 500 Namahat Sanghas. Wow! 500 Namahat Sanghas Association. And in his original Namahat essay entitled Shri Shri Godruma Kalpatavi, he described the structure of the Namahat. The spirit of his endeavor exactly matched the mood of Lord Nityananda, who was personally ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach in Bengal. Lord Chaitanya directed him thus: Shuno Shuno Nityananda Shuno Haridas, Sarvatra Maragnya Koroha Prakash, Prati Ghare Ghare Giya Koro E Bhiksha, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna Koro Krishna Shiksha. Oh, hear me, Nityananda, hear me, Haridas. Simply disseminate my order everywhere. Go from house to house and beg the residents as follows. Speak about Krishna, worship Krishna, and teach others about Krishna. Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila 13, 8 and 9. In his Namahat essay, the Thakur always describes himself as the sweeper of the marketplace of the holy name. In that marketplace in Godrumadvip, the storehouse is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the principal trader is Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The co-principal trader in Bengal is Sri Advaita Prabhu. In Vrindavan, Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. In Jagannath Puri, Sri Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai. The storekeepers in Bengal are Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Srimati Vishnupriya, and Srimati Janava Thakurani. In Vrindavan, Raghunath Das Goswami. In Jagannath Puri, Sri Paramananda Puri. Following this explanation is a description of the transcendental currency of the market. The various, so this is all, there is Borusuker Kabor Gai, Borusuker Kabor Gai, Surabhi Kunjete Name Hat Kuleche, Kodanitai. Kodanitai. This is a bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur which speaks of this. Okay. Following is an explanation, is a description of the transcendental currency of the market. The various levels of devotion are compared to paisa, the smallest denomination, to annas, and anna equals about 6 paisa, and to silver coins, and prema, pure love of God, to the most valuable denomination, the gold coin. The qualifications for membership are also specified. Techniques for chanting are detailed, etc. The Thakura then proceeds to describe some of the preaching pastimes of his party of friends. Fifth, Ashvin Chaitanyabhata 406, Monday, the Namahat sweeper, assistant and flag bearer, Thakur Bhaktivinoda Bhaktibringa Mahashaya and Sita Natha, arrived in the town of Ghatal, Minnapur district after dark. The devotees escorted the Namahat employees with Sankirtanan to the Harisabha. More than 1,000 devotees of the Nama assembled and engaged in massive Sankirtan. Whoa, 1,000 devotees. The next day at sunrise, along with all the devotees of Ram Jivanpura, they performed blissful kirtan and inspected the activities of the Namahat in the Prapanashrama preaching center of Shriyuta Kunjabihari Paina. More than 1,000 devotees assembled, loudly chanting the name of Hari. The Namahat commander for the area, Shriyuta Umacharana Vidyaratna, warmly welcomed the sweeper Bhaktivinod, his assistant, Bhakti Bringa, the devotee Sitanatha, and the assembled Namahat employees. The sweeper, Bhaktivinoda, gave a lecture on the glories of the holy name. Wow, can you imagine 1,000 devotees having kirtan? The captivating lecture and Vaishnava song I had personally composed filled the assembled devotees with prema. Traveling salesmen Shri Yuta Ramadas Babaji and Shri Yuta Darachandra Tarkalankara satisfied the assembly with sweet lectures. The assembly dispersed 3 hours after darkness had fallen with loud chanting of Hari and pure Nama Sankirtana. This means the assembly engaged in chanting and hearing all day and into the night. Can you imagine being there? 1,000 devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and 2 great exalted Vaishnavas who follow Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What the mood must have been. 7th Ashvin, at daybreak, street Sankirtan went out with a great gathering of Ramjivanpur villages. The special decorations and mandapas, raised platforms, in front of the houses were a wonderful sight to see. Day after, the Sankirtan party went on the main road and, coming from their homes, the devotees were chanting the name of Hari in great devotion. At one mandapa, the traveling salesman, Shri Yuta Ramadas Babaji and Shri Yuta Darachandra Tarkalankara and Bhaktivinoda Thakura explained the glories and the truth of the name, while from all 4 sides the village women folk raised their voices in ululation. You know this sound, right? That the women do ulululu. In some places, the school children, breaking loose from their teacher's care and crying Haribol, ran towards the Sankirtana party. The devotees were feeling mutual bliss. The minds of everyone present were captured by this enchanting scene. Wow, just see how a pure devotee can change the scene. This sounds just like the Sankirtan that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had, Very complete. The whole scene becomes spiritual, becomes a spiritual world. 8th Ashvin. In a massive gathering at Ramjivanpur, all the Namahat employees did Nama Kirtan from house to house. At the houses of Shri Yuta Umesh Chandra Modak, Shri Yuta Ananta Gayan, Shri Yuta Ramachand Datta, Shri Yuta Srinivas Raut, and Shri Yuta Ramkalpa Raut, a great multitude of people received the message of Mahaprabhu. We can see how Krishna fulfilled Bhaktivinoda Thakur's desire to preach. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was always engaged in duties, work, So Krishna gave him this 2 years of, simply going around and spreading the holy name. Finally, at the Natyashala theatre of Shri Parvati Natha Mahadeva, nearly 2,500 persons came together, where the commander glorified Mahaprabhu from the Vedas and the Puranas. At that time of pure devotional preaching, the sweeper Bhaktivinoda showed the uselessness of the impersonal philosophy. Later, at the Prapanashrama of storekeeper Shri Yuta Yadunath Pal, the Rasika Mandali performed kirtan. 2,000 plus, 2,000 and a half, 2,500 basically. 9th Ashvin. All the Namahat workers gathered at Hatipur, Devakhand, where nearly 3,000 people assembled at the Natyashala of Jagajanani, Bhadrakali. The traveling salesman of that place, Shri Yuta Keshava Chandra Chakravarti, had made many arrangements with gates and mandapas. The villagers took the Namahat workers with great enthusiasm from the bank of the river to a pandala, pavilion tent. Along the way, village women filled with ecstasy were ululating, an ancient practice which is supposed to generate auspiciousness and loud heroic enterprises. Those present will not forget the enchanting scene. At that time, everyone lost material consciousness, submerged in the ocean of Krishna Prem. After all the devotees were properly seated on the mandap, the following song was sung. Nityananda has come to the marketplace of the name. Whoever is coming, run quickly. Those 2 rascals, Jagai and Madai, have looted the storehouse and taken all the goods. You will find the partners. Advaita and Sanatan are the storehouse managers. Gadadhar Pandit is the guard. Haridas is the watchman. Sanjay and Sridhar are the bearers. Keshava Bharati and Vidyava Chaspati are brokers. And Krishna Das and others are managers. Srivas Pandita is the treasurer, and Kedaranath is the sweeper. The cost of the goods in the store are the 9 kinds of devotional service. The gold coin is prema. There is no limit. With whatever you have got, buy what you can. There is no shortage. Brothers, take as much of the goods as you can. For obtaining love of God, this is the best advice. The message is the nectarian name of the Lord. So let there be no useful strife. Let everyone, whoever he may be, share the same plate. Pure devotee is just trying us to convince us to chant. Just chant Hare Krishna. This is just it, 12 Ashvin. Namahat. Workers assemble at Bhaktinidhi's Vadan, Ganj Prapanashrama in the morning. Later at Koyapat Bazar, nearly 4,000 people came to see the Namahat workers. The first few minutes were spent in getting the people to be quiet. Bhaktinidhi's lecture was followed by a lecture by Bhaktivinoda on the verse Vadanti Tattadvavidas Tadvam from the Srimad Bhagavatam. With this verse, he destroyed the impersonalist philosophy and established the truth of pure devotion to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. This verse is 1 to 11. Brahmeti Paramatmiti Bhagavaditi Saddaya. The Absolute Truth has 3 features. During all of these lectures, the listeners' hearts were filled with devotional ecstasy, exhibited by frequent applause and crying of Hari with love-filled enthusiasm. In these wonderful excerpts, we catch a glimpse of the jubilant preaching exploits of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His activities immediately invoked the original preaching mood of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, on account of which huge crowds wildly chanted the holy name in ecstasy. The aforementioned crowds were getting the same opportunity by the pure association and presentation of the eternally liberated associate of the Lord, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We may also recall how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur brought the holy name to thousands, following in the saintly footstep of his father. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in his turn, held huge gatherings in Delhi, Calcutta, and Bombay, and Ratha Yatra chariot parade, celebrations attended by thousands in the West, simply to continue the disciplic succession of ecstatic distribution of the holy name, following in the footstep of his most exalted predecessor. We see how it was building up. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had thousands. Bhaktisiddhanta expanded even to the West slowly, and Prabhupada completely. If you see the Pandal program he had in Delhi and Bombay, tens of thousands of people daily were attending. Then the Ratha Yatra festivals, like in San Francisco, some 20, 30, even 50,000 people attended. Were swept, all the hippies and all. I mean, you can see how it, Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Svadanam. Distribution predecessors. In February of 1892, the Thakura was invited to speak at Kṛṣṇa-nagar before a large congregation of highly learned men from various parts of Bengal. He gave a lecture concerning his investigation and research into the genuine site of Lord Chaitanya's birth. After hearing his powerful presentation, the members of the assembly, who were overwhelmingly impressed by the Thakura's work, pledged their help by agreeing to join a society organized by the Thakura for the restoration, maintenance, and development of old Navadvip at Sri Mayapur, called Sri Navadvip Dham Pracharini Sabha. So that's the organization he made. I think it's there that he's going to be asking 1 rupee from all the residents of Navadvip to build a temple. The Thakura made the ruling princes of Tripura the society's hereditary presidents. Europeans were also present at the meeting, and the Thakura recalls the names Monroe, Wallace, and Butler. The Thakura also lectured to other societies and assemblies in the Kṛṣṇa-nagar area. In March of 1892, accompanied by his Vaishnava friends, the Thakura made a lecture tour of the Basirhat subdivision, located in the northeastern part of West Bengal's Kabisa Pargana district. He was preaching, chanting, and writing constantly during this period. His influence was tremendous. He opened a good number of branches of Namahat. Yeah, we heard 500 Namahat. throughout his life, I think it was said, right? Throughout his life, I think it said. And everywhere people began to take up the chanting of the holy name. This program was so successful and popular that even after the Thakura ceased his participation due to the call of government duties, it continued for many years. So this Namahat business, way of preaching is very effective. You can see, of course, pure devotee, everything is effective. After the Barsirhat tour, the Thakur took his friend Bhakti Bringa Mahashaya with him for a tour of Vrindavan. On the way, they spent the fast day, Ekadashi, with Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. The Thakura reached Vrindavan in great ecstasy and undertook a full tour of the Dham, visiting Bilvavana, Bhandiravana, Manasa Sarorava, Gokula, Madhuvan, Talavan, Bahulavan, Govardhan, Radhakunda, Shyamakunda, in short, all the places of Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Upon returning to his Bhakti Bhavan in Calcutta, he continued his preaching activities, giving lectures and reading about the glories of the holy name. Sometimes he was in Godruma, sometimes in Calcutta, and sometimes in Krishnanagar. So that's really, we're seeing now the manifested pastime of the Acharya, the mighty preacher. I'll look at your comment here a bit. Oh, this is Sami, okay. This Hare Krishna League is Sami, Sami Prabhu. I had forgotten. Hare Krishna, Sami Prabhu. Yes, so Hare Krishna, Manu Prabhu also. Welcome. So, okay, we are 1 hour 46 minutes. I wanted to finish this tomorrow. I don't know if it will be possible. Now we're at 112. How much did we do today? We started at 87, right? Now we're 112. We started at Krishna's at 87, yeah. How many is that? That's 25. 25 pages we've done. I don't think that's enough. Because 112, if we did 25 pages, we're at 112, a mighty pen. And of course, we don't read the whole book. We stop before the appendixes and all. So 112, what is that here? Bhakti, this. Okay. Accepted of Babaji Vesha, last days, summary and qualities. His daily schedule, his character, and then I think that's it. His his predictions. Okay, appendix. Okay, this we're not going to read. I'm not going to go all the way to the appendices. So what is that? So 150, 157, and we're at 112. That means 45 pages. And I said we did how many? 25. How can I do 45 tomorrow? Is it even possible to finish tomorrow? If let's say we go on another like half hour here, 45, like 30, bring it down to, I guess so. I don't want to be doing 2 other sessions somehow. It's been tough for my wife to always take care of the kids alone for all these times. Where did I say we were? 112, right? Oh, that's far. That's a lot of content. A mighty pen. Let's see how long is that. Oh, that's the Dalai Gita. Boro suker kavo ghai, boro suker kavo ghai. Surabi kundete namehan kuleche. I don't think 3 more episodes. I think if we finish now, tomorrow and after tomorrow, we'll finish. Tomorrow and after tomorrow. Yes, I don't think so we'll be finishing Friday and Saturday. Saturday will be the final one. Yeah, I think so. I don't think we'll continue now. We'll finish early today. And like this, we'll make it shorter for those who want to watch this later on YouTube. So 1 hour, 50 minutes. I think that's fine. Tomorrow we'll begin the mighty pen, and we'll try to do at least half of 45 pages. So that's like 20 something, which is easily doable because we've done 25 today. and then another short. So it will be 2 short sessions. Tomorrow a short one, and after tomorrow another short one. Okay, so thank you very much. We hope that you've appreciated today's session. It was today there was a lot more of about all the writings and different types of works and preaching activities done by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Whereas other episodes prior to that was more about his life, family life, and then pastimes and so on. So, okay, thank you very much. Vanchakar Patarudascha, Kripasindubhyaya Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnavana Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.